Consent? No. So what you find out, there's a lot of problems with this particular organization. I've been following them for several years now, and they have a real problem with what we call basic veracity. The latest has been on polio. All of a sudden, they've decided that the polio vaccine was maybe not the best. But I'm not a medical person. I'm not in internal medicine. I'm not board certified anything. And I don't pretend to be like, I think there's a guy named RFK who plays like he's a doctor in Washington, D.C. But we do have someone who is, and we're going to bring him on right now, Dr. Michael Patmos, who is a medical doctor, board certified in internal medicine, and he can shed some light on what's going on in Washington, D.C., and also some light on what's going on with Physicians for Informed Consent, because every time I read that organization, I go, are these people really physicians? I mean, it's almost like they don't know what they're doing. But I'll turn it over to you, and also the breaking news that you have.
Okay. Well, good morning, Nick, and good morning, Mark, and good morning to all the viewers and folks all around the world. I appreciate so much the opportunity to share some interesting information and some points of view with you. Today, I'm going to talk primarily about Physicians for Informed Consent and their ridiculous stand on polio vaccination. But first, there is some breaking news that's very important. I think it's actually kind of a tsunami, if you will. I don't know if you heard, there's a tsunami in the Pacific yesterday. Dr. Vinay Prasad, the oncologist from UCSF, who was just appointed to head up the FDA's Office of Evaluation of Biologicals, has just been fired, ousted after only 3 months on the job. And this story was broken by Walter Bragman just minutes ago, and I just happened to see it. And this is really shocking because Dr. Prasad is absolutely brilliant. He's a very highly trained oncologist with great credentials, but he has this passion for being a contrarian and a loose cannon. And he basically attacks everybody and says everything is not proven and nothing should be, approved because studies aren't good enough. And he's the only one who can judge if a study is good enough. And he also writes very offensive articles. He has one article that he wrote that I really had a problem with, called Blood, pardon the vulgarity, but this is the title of his article. This is a academic physician, and his article was entitled Blood, Shit, Piss, and Pus. And he, in this article, basically suggested that he comes in contact with blood and body fluids every day on the job, and so do all the doctors and nurses, and that's the reason why they shouldn't have to ever listen to an administrator who doesn't come in contact with these blood and body fluids. It was a bizarre argument. I mean, he goes on to attack healthcare administrators using vulgar language. Anyhow, the problem with his article is that what he says is he comes in contact with blood and body fluids every day, and that puts him at risk. So he should be able to do whatever he wants. That's absurd. If you're coming in contact with blood and body fluids every single day in the course of your work as a doctor, there's only one thing happening. You're violating infection control. No one should be coming into direct contact with blood and body fluids if they're following infection control practices. So either he's completely lying about his contact with these materials, or he does break with infection control practices. Let me tell you, if you're working in a hospital and you get an exposure to blood and body fluids, that's immediately reportable to infection control and to HR, and you have to be tested for exposure, and you're taken off the job. You can't just go walk around waddling in blood and body fluids and like every day and just go to work. You might pick up something and transmit it to another patient or staff member. So his article is not only titled in the most vulgar and childish way. What scientist writes an article with that title? But it also says something about his basic contempt for infection control and contempt for administrators. And he at the FDA, he was basically shutting down all progress on these new biological treatments. And what really happened, at least Laura Loomer seemed to suggest it in what she said about him, is that he was getting in the way of the approval of some of the new things coming out of the biopharma companies in Palo Alto, and they were complaining to Trump that Prasad was interfering with their business model. So out goes Prasad. He probably stepped on Trump's toes so he was really a poor fit. This is a guy who's like opposed to everything and has a big mouth and likes to speak in vulgar terms. And anyhow, good news, Prasad is out. Potty mouth can go back to San Francisco. Now on to Physicians for Informed Consent. This is a really interesting topic, and I'm quite glad that it was suggested. So Physicians for Informed Consent is an organization that sounds like a lofty and noble organization. It has a board of leaders that all are physicians, or that are mostly are physicians, and they sound like they're really got lofty titles. But what Physicians for Informed Consent does is they proffer opinions that are absolutely absurd and completely against everything that infection control and infectious disease community and medical community at large believes. For example, recently and consistently, Physicians for Informed Consent has been advocating against polio vaccine, and their argument is as follows. They say, well, the polio, 95% of cases of polio are asymptomatic or minimally symptomatic. So, and only a handful of people with polio actually, like 5%, actually get really sick or end up paralyzed or not being able to breathe for the rest of their lives and ending up in an iron lung. It's only a small percentage. So why expose people to the risk of polio vaccine? And what risks are they referring to? The risk they're referring to is stuff reported in VAERS, the Vaccine Adverse Events Reporting System, which is a voluntary, unfiltered reporting system where anybody can claim anything they want. I could claim that because I took the polio vaccine in 1957 when I was 5 years old, that my hair fell out, and I could put that on VAERS, and there's nobody to challenge it. So they rely on what's in VAERS, which you can't use VAERS that way. There's a disclaimer right at the website that says you can't use it this way. They use VAERS the wrong way in violation of VAERS' own disclaimer. And then they say that the polio vaccine it's too dangerous, too many side effects. And by the way, it doesn't prevent infection, and it doesn't prevent asymptomatic infection. That's not what vaccines are for. Vaccines are to prevent death and severe disease. That's why we vaccinate. We vaccinate people to prevent death and severe disease. That's the outcome that we look for. That's the endpoint that matters. If you get an asymptomatic mild infection, it's not as much of a concern. The concern is death and severe disease. With polio, what we're trying to prevent is spending the rest of your life in an iron lung because you cannot breathe because you're paralyzed. Anyhow, Physicians for Informed Consent has this bizarre position that they've taken, advising people read the fine print, do your own research, like people can do their own research, and caution about the polio vaccine. It's absurd. There's no credible physician anywhere who would support that, and certainly not in the infectious disease world. And that's their position. So recently, now here's where it gets exciting and kind of new, and here's a new twist for all the viewers. Recently, I've been recruiting doctors for many years for different hospitals and health systems. I look at a lot of resumes, and when you look at a lot of resumes, you kind of get the sense that some are kind of filled with fluff. But there was never really an easy way to vet these resumes. Well, now there is. It's called artificial intelligence. So recently, I've been vetting resumes from folks using ChatGPT, and it's fascinating. Now, ChatGPT can get things wrong, but I think it is interesting to see what it comes back with. When you take someone's resume and you put it into ChatGPT, say, please evaluate this resume. It'll come back and tell you, this is correct, this is verified, that's not verified, this we can't find any evidence to support. I mean, ChatGPT is really good at reviewing resumes. It saves a lot of time, and in seconds you can get a good sense for someone's resume. Well, I went with ChatGPT and I happened to review a couple. I reviewed the leadership at Physicians for Informed Consent. There's a lot of them. but I looked at 3 in particular. Now, one of the things that you'll notice when you look at Physicians for Informed Consent is a lot of them aren't physicians. There's a lot of non-physician people on their board. In addition, there are physicians there whose names are very familiar because they're anti-vaxxers. And 2 of them in particular, I know, Dr. Stoller and Dr. Thomas, both lost their licenses. Dr. Thomas lost his license in Oregon after having plenty of opportunity to remediate his performance because he was saying awful things and putting children at risk, actively discouraging immunization and telling parents not to immunize their children for a whole variety of false reasons. The Oregon Medical Board, which I am a member and a consultant, yanked his license. And they gave him an opportunity to course correct, and he refused. So he lost his license. Dr. Stoller is another one who lost his license and, by the way, was also disciplined for harming a child with bad information. I think the child did die. He lost his license in New Mexico and in California. And he's also in Physicians for Informed Consent. Well, I took both of their resumes and put them into ChatGPT, and bingo, there's all sorts of false information in there. Dr. Stoller, for example, says he's board certified in hyperbaric medicine. There is no board certification in hyperbaric medicine. It's not a medical specialty identified by the American Board of Medical Specialties. So there's false information there. There's misleading information in these resumes. So I went through some of the other things with the leadership at Physicians for Informed Consent. And there's another one that stands out. I mean, first thing, there's only one infectious disease. So here, Physicians for Informed Consent talks about infectious diseases, polio, right? And vaccines. That's an infectious disease topic. None of their doctors are infectious disease doctors, except one, Dr. Joyce Draper. And I thought, that's odd. How could a credible infectious disease doctor be associated with this organization? It just troubled me. So I did a little research and I found out that she is a legitimate infectious disease doctor, but there is no evidence that she's actually been involved with Physicians for Informed Consent, yet she's labeled as a emeritus founding member. There's no content that she has published. There's no record of anything coming from her from Physicians for Informed Consent about polio or any other infectious disease topic. So it appears they're using her name in a way that may not be justified. She's got no role with Physicians for Informed Consent now, yet she is listed as an emeritus founding member. I cannot find, using artificial intelligence, any actual evidence that she's been publishing or making statements or participating in the statements made by Physicians for Informed Consent. So if you take Dr. Draper out, they don't have a single infection doctor at their organization. There are a lot of family physicians and other fringe physicians, oxidative medicine and complementary medicine and integrative medicine. I'm going to go through every one of them and put every one of their resumes into ChatGPT and see what I come up with. But the bottom line today is that Physicians for Informed Consent proffers horrible recommendations that are not evidence-based, that are just flat out wrong and dangerous, that would put people at risk. Bringing back polio. If they get their way, polio will come back. It already is, but it would come back in a bigger way. Polio is a very bad disease. Anybody who was alive in the 1950s will tell you that was a mother's greatest fear in 1957, that their child would get polio and be paralyzed. And I remember getting polio vaccinated in 1957. We were all happy to have that vaccine. So Physicians for Informed Consent, bad policy, a list of doctors who are not qualified. Two doctors lost their licenses on their board. One may not actually be involved with Physicians for Informed Consent. That may just be an exaggeration by that organization. And Dr. Prasad potty mouth is out, back to San Francisco for potty mouth. That's my commentary for today. So have at it.
So this guy Prashad, whatever his name is he going to go back to teaching?
Yes. Yes.
Why would a university bring him back on?
That's a great question. When I first stumbled on his article of with the vulgar title, I can't even remember the title because it's so vulgar for any
Yeah.
physician, any professional to write an article with that kind of vulgar title. I had to, look him up. He is a faculty member at UCSF, and in his article, he says he comes in contact with this stuff every day. I said, he can't possibly be coming in contact with blood and body fluids every day. That means that UCSF, one of the greatest hospitals in the world, violates infection control. So I don't know why UCSF puts up with this, but he impugns the administration where he works, his own administrative superiors. He calls them abject pieces of, and yet he's on the faculty there. It just blows my mind. He must be a very good oncologist, because the residents and students who round with him universally report he's brilliant and he really understands cancer well. But that's great. He should stick to what he knows.
Hey, Dr. Padman, just out of curiosity, I was wondering, maybe he's trying to imitate a doctor that is famous from Duke University, who is also a doctor and a comedian, that being the world famous Ken Jeong and everything like that. So maybe he's trying to imitate that particular doctor, because he was and is a comedian, but he was trained at Duke University as a comedian. I mean, as a doctor.
I don't know. I don't know about that one. I'll have to look up.
Well,
look that one up.
It's the guy from Hangover. It's the guy. It's the actor, the doctor / actor from Hangover and everything like that. But if you look him up, you'll see that he was actually trained at Duke University as a medical doctor.
Oh, well, that's interesting. But I think yes, Nick.
Yeah, in academics, though, the way he would be able to keep his job is if he got tenure. So, do you know if he's a tenured professor at the university?
He's very young. He's actually quite young. Dr. Prasad is quite young. I mean, his CV is really good. I mean, he's got impeccable training at college, graduate school, medical school, residency. He's got top tier training as a physician and oncologist. I'm sure he's a very good oncologist. But I don't know if he's tenured. He's young. He's a young fella, and he has sort of, his brand is to be a contrarian with a contrarian who uses sharp language to make his point. And he kind of argues that nothing should be done if there isn't like this certain standard of evidence. Now, we're all proponents of high quality evidence, but there's a lot of things in medicine for which there isn't double-blinded randomized placebo-controlled trials. There's no double-blinded randomized placebo-controlled trial that proves that parachutes work. So would you suggest we stop using parachutes and let people airplanes without no randomized controlled trial that shows that you should close a surgical wound, that you should suture a wound? It's never been subjected to a double-blinded randomized placebo-controlled trial. What are we supposed to do? Stop suturing wounds?
Yeah.
So his arguments are childish. Yes, we should always strive to have the very best evidence, but that doesn't mean we throw the baby out with the bath.
Yeah, just really quickly, I know this is off of our topic, but it is one that is very pertinent to North Carolina, pertinent to Spain. Actually, it's pertinent to the world these days and everything, and no internal medicine is impacted by it and everything. But what advice would you give to folks that are dealing with this horrible heat wave from a medical standpoint and all along those lines? Because definitely it is something that is impacting people here in the East Coast, the West Coast, and even in Spain and around the globe and everything. So just wondering, I know a lot of people are saying, drink lots of water and stay hydrated and everything like that, but I was wondering if you had any other internal medicine advice.
Yes, thank you for asking that. In my 45 years of practice as an internist, I have seen over half a century, nearly half a century, how heat waves kill people, especially children and elderly people. I don't know what it is, but it seemed like whenever I was in practice in New Jersey and there was a heat wave, some elderly person would decide to go mow the lawn in the middle of the day when it's 99 degrees and fall over on their lawnmower. I literally had patients who had that happen. Yes, so heat waves are dangerous. The earth is getting hotter, and we have to take this seriously, especially the elderly. The medical advice is stay where it's air conditioned. If your air conditioning goes out, get a fan. Get in water. Get in water, go to a pool, go, draw your bath, fill your bathtub up, throw some ice cubes in there, get in cool water, keep your body temperature down, stay hydrated and keep your body temperature down, and wait it out. Wait till the heat wave goes away. If you don't have power, if you don't have water, if you don't have a way to cool off, call for help. Get a neighbor, a friend, a relative, someone to come in and help you. But a quick way to lower body temperature is get in cool water, get wet, and then blow a fan on you, and that will help lower your core temperature. But yes, hyperthermia is a very serious problem in the dog days of summer, which is where we are right now, and in many parts of the country and the world, we're seeing very significant heat waves. Global warming and climate change is real, and we are seeing it every day. Stay cool and stay hydrated. Get in the water.
Yeah, and we've seen that in Tampa, Florida, where it actually hit 100 degrees. It never made 100 ever. It set record. And in Spain, they're also having a heat wave, record temperature. So it is a very serious problem. Yes. I was in California the other day. I was impressed because it wasn't that hot in California.
We are cooking the planet. And, now you probably know, I am a scuba diver. And one of the things that in the scuba world that people were talking about is the bleaching of coral all around the world. Coral all around the world is in great danger. The Great Barrier Reef is dying. So who cares if coral reefs are dying? Here's why it's important. Coral reefs support much of the life in the ocean. And when the coral reef goes down, the whole food chain breaks down. So the health of the ocean is at grave risk because of global warming. And we're going to see it when there's no fish anymore to eat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think it's very important. Now, if Prashad is gone, is there a new person who's going to take his place, or what are we looking at?
Dr. Makary, who is Prasad's boss, hasn't. This was just announced today, this morning. Dr. Makary hasn't announced a successor, but I think it really opens up the issue of Trump's appointments. Are they vetted? I would think that someone would have gone through Prasad's CV and saw the things he's written and say, wait a second, this guy's a loose cannon. And he apparently has been very critical of Trump, which is the biggest mistake. If you're in the Trump world, you cannot criticize him or you're out. Well, he made some comments criticizing Trump. He's out. He stepped on some biopharma, biotech toes. He's out. But he also writes vulgar things. And no respectable professional writes articles with those kinds of titles. I'm sorry.
Right. So basically, he has no class. He's all crass.
Yeah.
No class. All crass.
No class. But yeah. I think if you take all of Trump's appointees, the medical ones, and run their CV through AI, you might find out that there's a lot of folks out there who have some fluff in their CVs.
Mm-hmm. You're going to run RFK Jr.'s CV through Chat GPT as well? Because I'm sure he's got
I hadn't thought about that because I'm a doctor. I'm always, looking at medical credentials. But I suppose I think RFK's resume is probably public now, especially the diary that he kept of all of his extramarital.
I think he did make a correct statement. He goes, "No one should take my medical advice."
No one should take his medical advice, and yet he is out there making medical decisions every day. A lawyer, now, Nick, I know you're a lawyer, so I don't mean to be offensive to you, but I can't practice law without training, and you can't practice medicine without an MD, and neither can RFK.
Yeah, well, also the thing is, even in law practice, you tend to subspecialize into very narrow areas. So right now, people ask me a lot of law questions. I don't work in a very narrow area of the law, and then that's it. I know a lot about a very small subject, rather than know a lot about all these other subjects. I don't. But also, once you become a specialist in one area, you realize how deep it is. You realize you can't be a specialist in all the areas. Some people are pretending to be specialists on other things. I want to have to take a break now. Mark, you have to take over because I have to.
Oh, no problem at all. One of the things that I did see is that apparently Dr. Patmos, it looks like he is gotten together earlier today with the governor of Oklahoma and said he's going to pledge to make Oklahoma healthy again. And it looks like he's trying to put health responsibilities on individuals versus some of the medical folks and everything like that. So it looks like he's already done some of these things. And there was even an article, I guess, in the UK where he was blasting the broken vaccine injury program and pledges a fix and everything like that. So I'm already worried when you're trying to fix a program like that and all along those lines. So I just wanted your thoughts around some of this latest news from RFK. And this was all pretty much from today.
Yeah, RFK the other day said that you can cure schizophrenia by diet. You know, I don't think he's ever taken care of a schizophrenic patient. He doesn't understand the first thing about schizophrenia. It's often triggered by viral infections in the brain. In any case, he's made those kinds of ridiculous statements. But I think if you had to pick, you know, RFK's cavalcade of hits, you know, just like, you know, what are the top 10 hits from RFK? I think the one that really, even worse than what he's done with autism, is he pulled the United States out of the global vaccine program. This is a program that's a collaboration of countries around the world. The United States is the second largest financial contributor. What the organization is called Gavi, G-A-V-I. What this organization does is it provides vaccinations to the poorest children in the poorest resource-starved parts of the world to provide vaccination. And he has pulled the United States out of that, which will cause that organization to collapse. It's already been estimated that tens of thousands of people have already died, because this doesn't just remove vaccination, it removes support for HIV medications and so forth. So what he's basically done is target the poorest countries in the world, the children in the poorest countries in the world, for really what is a genocide by ignorance. Genocide it's a crime of omission. Removing, or maybe commission, removing vaccination is a way of inducing genocide of these poor countries and the poorest children in these poorest countries by taking away the vaccines that we have been helping to provide for them. It's grossly unconscionable. And what's his justification? He cites a bad study from 50 or 60 years ago, a study that has been refuted because it's a bad study. It says these things might have side effects. So because they haven't really studied, like Prasad would say, studied them adequately, we're going to withdraw these vaccines. Let these hundreds of thousands of children around the world in these poor countries die. That's what R.F. Kennedy is doing. It's unconscionable. I don't know how we have gotten to this point. We've taken the worst people with the worst backgrounds, fake experts, and put them in charge. Now, who has done this? Trump.
Yep, Trump's put people in interesting jobs. He's got the lady from the Wrestling Association running that, and he's got RFK running health, and he's got a number of other folks that I'm trying to figure out how they got their particular jobs.
I think I figured it out. I think if you're an obsequious sycophant, okay, if you will agree to echo whatever Trump says, like Kristi Noem does, or if you will agree to just parrot everything he says and never disagree with him, never call him out, never step on his toes, and be an obsequious sycophant, that will get you a job in the Trump administration. It doesn't matter what your credentials are. It doesn't matter if your CV is full of baloney. If you're an obsequious sycophant, he's your friend.
He's your friend, and he'll get you a job and everything like that. So apparently all you got to do is be willing to kiss the ring, as a friend of mine puts it, and all along those lines, and you'll be good for the job and everything like that.
It really appears that way. He doesn't tolerate anybody who disagrees with him.
No, he doesn't tolerate folks that disagree with him in the least bit. I know here in North Carolina, we had a governor that was very much a friend of medicine and a friend of research, who is now going to be running for senator. So hopefully Roy Cooper will have some luck and everything like that, because he was definitely a liberal governor and everything.
Actually, he did some good stuff. I saw his name came up, but I think he's on the right side of the issues.
Right. I definitely think that he's on the right side of the issues and all along those lines. So this has been another good show. I know Nick's gone and everything, but we get ready to wrap it up. It looks like Nick's coming back, so we'll see if Nick's got any parting words. Otherwise, we get ready to get on out of here and everything.
Yeah. No, it's quite interesting that all of a sudden we see Prashad is out, but also we're out too. So we'll see you next week on Medicine Science on TV Network. Take care. Bye-bye.